okay, without any further ado, we're just going to look back more so than we have done on the opening week of the Rugby World Cup. I was shooting this obviously on Tuesday evening, so we've seen a fair few of the games so far. The big
round
games,
one's totally in the books, and we technically today's game was the start of round 2, I think.
That might be right. It was certainly the today being Tuesday was the beginning of Russia's second round. Anyway, Samoa playing their first game. It was the first team that we've seen play 2 games. Half of their World Cup is over. But they've been good value for it, and they were good value on the opening day against a nervy Japan side. Yeah,
it was a very interesting start, wasn't it? It was like you could see how nerves were playing a part, and just that response from either team was kind of like, Japan being the hosts with so much expectation, the fact that they play such a fast kind of style, you can see that when that goes wrong, like we've seen it a few times with Scotland even over the years, like when you try and play that quickly and you're feeling a bit of pressure and then it doesn't quite click, it can kind of unravel and snowball on you. And then conversely, Russia going in being written off by everyone, ourselves included, and it was like nothing really. There was nothing really for them to lose at all, and as such they played above themselves for that first half and really did make it difficult for the Japanese, and kind of revealed a few weaknesses in Japan's game. Certainly the breakdown,
the probing kicking game for one was paying dividends.
Paying immediate dividends. That very
fullback
that was a very very bad play under the high ball. Not what you want to see a week out from an Ireland game as well, but. They were dodgy in that area, but also just in resourcing of their offensive breakdown. They were a bit slack, and Russia's number 7 was what was his name again? Gadziev was awesome. My man of the match, but I know their 9 was great as well. And Matsushima obviously grabbing 3 tries is gonna
from Russia's point of view
he was superb.
Well, it was one of the things is that we noticed Japan obviously were a little shaky when they get their offloading game going and their offensive game going. The tries that they score are beautiful. They run great angles. They manipulate the space very nicely. But it is dependent on speed and it is dependent on offloads. And so what we saw the Boks do was wrap them up, stop the ball, and actually then we saw the Russians at a considerably lower level manage to execute something similar. So it has the potential to become a theme for Japan's perspective. But they ended up getting the job done with a hat-trick from the wonderful Matsushima.
And a wonderful little 7 try in there in the rip and run. As it was half length of the pitch for a back rower. That's no mean feat.
So that was a profitable opening day win for Japan and got the tournament off to a good start because it was an enjoyable game of footy.
Absolutely.
But it was to be overshadowed by Super Saturday, which kicked off with a good win for Australia in the end against Fiji. Not without controversy, obviously, with the high shot on Reece Hodge from Reece Hodge on Yato, who had been having a barnstorming game.
He was probably the most influential player on the paddock at that time, which is why the incident is as highlighted as it was. Like, he was try scorer, but also was winning every contact he was in, and he had just made that little probing break from that line out in that very play. That could have materialised into something else. You never know.
No question, he was on form, and Fiji's offense generally was getting.
The other side of it with the instance with Hodge is that in the run up to that, both wingers, Radradra had done it twice to him, and on the other side, Tuisova had sat him down on defence, like just sat him down. And it felt like a cheap shot in response to that. Like, just in the context of the game, what I was watching was Reece Hodge, who was one of the more physical, defensive minded players in that back line, getting roughed up by the Fijians and just throwing a little bit back. Which is it was unfortunate to see it overlooked.
Illegally so, and it hasn't been now. It has been referred to the citing commissioner, and I think he has been cited.
It's no good for Fiji though.
Well, it's no good for Fiji, it is what it is, but I think ultimately the narrative for them, they ended up being 15 on 15, and Australia went to where they go. They went to their line out drive and their scrum, and the fact that they were so considerably ahead of where Fiji were at in that department, that it was kind of farcical. I thought Tolulatu at hooker had a great game, but generally they just kept it tight. Scotty CO again scrummaging really well. And it's great for Australia that they have that place to go to where they can completely rough up a side, and worrying for Fiji that they couldn't deal with it at all. While the opening half was very impressive, they caught a break with that breakout try for Nias Levu, but
and then shipped
27 consecutive points, and didn't really fire a bolt in it. I mean, every time that they conceded, they gave up cheap meters instantly and ended up defending again.
Yeah.
And Australia, through Will Genia, managed to get direction of their ship, get a proper world-class halfback on there to direct a very strong pack, and got it done in comprehensive fashion.
They do have the Indian sign over that Fiji team. It's been many decades since Fiji have beaten Australia, and it's just like they end up in a shootout and they can't match the set piece. Czech's set piece looks organised though. He's brought the Wallabies here in sharp form.
Maul is great. They have that mauling game, and I'm telling you not to sleep on that scrum. It's a great scrum.
No.
Certainly their first choice is. But then obviously we have to move on. The second game of Super Saturday, France took on Argentina.
What a game this was.
This was
the game of the tournament so far for me.
Yeah.
Just in terms of having it all, like obviously we were burying the lead. The All Blacks and Springboks played out a great contest as well. But this game, with it being so tight, the back and forth nature of it, we got to see a true French expression of rugby in the first half.
Yeah.
Then we got to see an equally true French representation of rugby in the second when they went completely missing. And as well, we got to see Argentina really, really game for the fight and coming and actually challenging the set piece defence of France really efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, exactly.
And then rattling them.
I thought Argentina were great in that second half.
I think
they went to their tight five. Guido Petty had an unbelievable performance.
He was awesome.
They did stand up to the physical challenge. We had gone in saying they weren't going to have a scrum. They turned their scrum completely around. Tete Shapiro looking like a completely different man. Juan Fugallo rediscovering some of his form, and they scrummed really well.
Yeah.
So actually, I think while convenient, the narrative of France, they're one half good, one half bad, they're crazy. I actually think that narrative is a little simplistic, and it doesn't give Argentina their due credit. They came back into the game. They played really well, and France did have the cool head to get that drop goal to win it. But I must say that I thought there was a distinct possibility that this game might come down to a big boot Buffelli kick, and that a few games in Argentina's future would come back to a big boot Buffelli kick to win it. And I actually thought
missed it. I didn't
that's
have
the thing,
them
is
missing
that
one.
I thought they were their winning pictures. I thought big boot Buffelli was going to step up and nail it, and just pulled across it, and those are the margins. So tight.
It's hard to blame him because Sanchez missed two in similar fashion earlier in the game as well, which can't be
I
overlooked.
know, but that was the clutch moment that you really would have expected him to come on, and he played well in the game. That was an unfortunate one for him, and those are the margins. France got the breaks. And you remember in 2018, the opening day of the Six Nations, Ireland got the break with that last minute drop goal against them, and their Six Nations went one way and Ireland's went another. So those are the small margins, and now France are really in the mix, looking good for a quarter-final.
They're looking good for a quarter-final, but just the way it stacks up for them in terms of their run in the group is pretty positive, like compared to what you're looking at with England, where their big games are the last two games, and then even if they win those two, they have to go a sequence of tough games all the way to the final, whereas there's a bit more room for manoeuvring there for France now that they got over that first game.
Yeah, they don't play again until I think Thursday of next week.
Right.
So it's a long break for them.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. It was the best day for fans. Both fans added such colour, and to see a load of French fans out for the first game when it would have been an easy one to miss for the rest of your group being so stacked.
Yeah.
It was just awesome to see. But unlucky for Argentina.
Definitely.
But France got it done in dramatic fashion.
Dramatic. One thing I would say, that being able to bring on a halfback pairing of the caliber of Machino and Lopez
is what won it for them.
Like because Argentina, Sanchez played pretty poorly and they were scratching their head as a result of that, and it's like that. Those are small margins, but that was definitely an area of superiority. And then in the somewhat justice then that it was a lovely winning drop goal. And on day two of the World Cup as well, in
the last play when Argentina were having a go of it, it was Machino who executed the perfectly legal turnover. I mean, there were refereeing controversies which we'll touch on soon, but the clean out from Machino was perfectly fine, and he got the steal, and that was fair play, and he got the turnover and
big game moments.
So for your replacement halfbacks, they're super pairing to bring on, and to Mac going well as well. But we'll talk about France again when they're next playing. They are well in the mix. Then there was obviously the headliner of Super Saturday, All Blacks against the Springboks. It lived up to the billing. It was suitably dramatic. There was an initial 20-minute surge of awesome Bok defence that really did stifle the All Blacks. But as is a theme with the Boks, it didn't translate into a massive scoreboard pressure.
3-0 after that 20 minutes was not enough. And the All Blacks reminding everyone about how they play the game. And A few big standouts. Like I thought Scott Barrett really impressed me.
Yeah.
In terms of he had to impress really because of his showings in the rugby championship. Really, that was that red card, and he probably felt he owed the jersey a little something, and he definitely delivered against what is this a really awesome pack. Yeah, it was a game played to the highest standard. Probably, I wouldn't have it as highly or rated as highly as the game previously, just because the stakes were slightly different. Like
they were much lower.
When the Springboks, when it became evident that they weren't going to win the game, there wasn't that sense of desperation to try and pull it out of the fire that you would see if it were a quarterfinal or any kind of knockout game.
Totally,
as opposed to on the other game where everyone's throwing the kitchen sink at each other and it comes down to one last moment. But even with that being said, some of the accuracy of some of the play was to the highest level, and all through it was really high standard rugby from both sides throughout, and that's why even the drop goal, perfectly illustrative of the difference of context. Like the drop goal was probably a superior drop goal technically, but nowhere near the same kind of clutch moment that Lopez was showing.
Yes,
but I really loved the play, and it bamboozled the offense or the defense as well. Gave him Pollard all the time strike, pull left, pull back. Little kind of playful playing around with the pocket arrangement, and then a beautiful strike.
Yeah, it's something we'll probably see from the Boks as the tournament goes on. They will have little drop goal sets that are curious because they back Pollard to get them, and it is a good place to go vis-a-vis points for them. Which they for all of their dominance, points are getting hard to come by.
Well, this is it,
and they need to. Well, we'll touch on them obviously when they're playing, but they do need to fix their offense. But actually having that drop goal ticking along for them will be useful points, especially if they're playing Ireland, and Ireland being such a disciplined team defensively. If the Boks are down there, like there's every chance that they're just not going to break them down or get a penalty. Maybe just chipping over those drop goals is going to be huge for them as it goes on.
Definitely.
But the All Blacks with that awesome performance, that great haka to start the game, which is I'm loving how well the Japanese are miking the hakas.
Yes, that's a good point as well. Yeah, because I actually think the anthems aren't as well mic'd.
No, well, we have certainly from our coverage anyway. I'm not sure if people are editing it, but the crowd volume is too low and the player volume is ridiculous.
Yes,
but we don't need to hear it, boys.
Yeah,
but yeah, the All Blacks got off to a ripper and scored some awesome tries and looked sharp.
They did, razor sharp, and they really good balance to them. I thought their centres, which was untried in my head, but Crotty obviously awesome. Leonard Brown stepped up amazingly, wonderful little touch and contribution for that Scott Barrett try, but also stepped up on defence and was like really just game for the fight. Really enjoyed that in him because he hasn't been in the incumbent, but I've always liked Leonard Brown's hustle. I really like him from either 12 or 13, and that was a useful pairing that they have in there, obviously with people like Sonny Bill to still return.
Who didn't look the sharpest, and he'll have a chance to get sharp.
He did make one or two very good. He made one in particular very big hit on defence that led to a turnover. That was pretty key at the time because it was like the Springboks did keep coming, which is something admirable about this Springbok team. But it just wasn't
quite. They're way less brittle than they used to be.
They're way less brittle, but it felt like their attack in general was a little flat, and that started with Faf. Faf himself was a little looser than I remember him. That loose pass for
he wasn't great.
But also Vili then, and I'm talking their capacity to change things. Vili wasn't quite working.
Yeah, they have a few weeks to work it out, and we will touch on them in greater detail when we're talking about them.
Yeah, it just kind of colours. They both know where they're at now. That's what coming out of week one,
round one, New Zealand for sure. Yeah. We also had in the other game in that group, followed up on Sunday, Italy-Namibia, which was another really fun, class game, well supported by the Japanese fans. Great tries scored by both sides. Conor O'Shea was super frustrated with it post-match, but actually he needn't have been. Apart from a few Sergio Parisse errors, which are becoming a thing, Italy played quite well, and Namibia were good value for their 22 points.
I was encouraged. The 3 tries they scored were all kind of worldies, and I'm very happy with that. They're both of their halfbacks look really good. They're
the 2 scrummies.
Like as in the ones that came off the bench as well.
Yeah,
really quick. Love the tempo that they play with. Their hooker, obviously South African born.
What is your man's name?
He's awesome. Another.
Torsten van Jansveld.
Another really dynamic hooker from South Africa. Who's
scrummy. The little lad Stevens who got the try was a class little halfback, and then there was the Techers of Yankees, the experience of Yankees to bring on, and he actually played really nice footy himself and managed them around the pitch cleverly. So they seem to have good hustle about them, and they're obviously getting ready for a cup final against Canada at the end of the pool.
It's unfortunate that they have to go through just have the Springboks and the All Blacks go through them for 2 weeks in a row prior to that cup final is a bit unfortunate. I would sooner see that happen sooner, but it does mean it's the last round and they have all to play for. And
yeah, they're going
a
to
side that's never won anything, and they look like they can play a bit of footy. And Canada haven't really impressed me all year. So
we'll see. Russia didn't impress, and then they showed up and did. So,
so we'll see what Canada look like when they take the field, which they haven't yet.
Absolutely. And then we had the big match on Sunday, which was Ireland getting it done as we suspected they would in dominant fashion against Scotland. Their forwards were primed. They were sort of building off that last warm-up performance. Kept a very, very, very solid game all around, but basically just won it up front with the heft of their pack, playing accurate football. And then Murray and Sexton, Murray in particular being in great form in that second half, managing us through the wet rain and getting, a comfortable win against a Scotland side that were getting beat up, looked shocked by the conditions, and
looked really bad. I was surprised by Scotland. We like big fans of Scotland. We were paying them due deference in thinking that there's a proper threat here, and this was definitely the most threatening fixture of Ireland's group campaign, and is going to remain that way. Now the rest of the group looks much more positive seeing that one through. But yeah, I was shocked at just the look of some of the Scots, and it was like typified even by Barkley being throwing up after like 30 minutes of play, and he's caught throwing up on camera, and you're going, wow, they really are shocked. And people like McAnally was soft in every contact that he was in. He was going backwards through the tackle. They were really, it surprised me because I thought they would come with a lot more hustle. And Richie as well.
Richie wasn't playing.
Johnny Gray even. It was a weak showing from the Scots, who had been talking a big game. And obviously they were surprised by that physicality. Ireland did get in Finn Russell's face and shut him down through the 12 channel a lot. It was Bundy Aki before he went off because of a massive hit on Finn, and then Chris Farrell came in and did the same thing for the rest of the 80 minutes. And similarly out wide, I think Gary Ringrose did a good job of shutting down Stewie Hogg a few times, trying to just cut off the outside for him, and then suddenly Scotland became quite rudderless as soon as that happened. There just wasn't quite enough. Also, things like that, their centre partnership wasn't the one that had been in the warm-up games, and probably isn't their main one.
Indeed, and we'll talk about Scotland obviously in the context of the Samoa preview a bit more, but they didn't look good, and Ireland got it done in good fashion and themselves.
Tee up the rest of the pool rather nicely.
They did. It was definitely a pleasant performance for Ireland fans. Not one to get carried away with, but solid, and reveals basically where the two sides are at vis-a-vis World Cup chances and expectations. That was followed up by a really physical game between England and Tonga.
It's true.
The Tongans didn't have much beyond physicality, but they did bring a bit of it. They went for a couple of 3-pointers and got one of them. And
that was good.
Sibitao was good. They were good value for
that big hit on Billy Vunipola was one of the highlights that was so far from that number 7. It was awesome.
It was a great hit, but ultimately England were really, really inaccurate and still managed to lock up 35 points. And
they left a lot out there. Left a lot of points out there. We were quite enjoying it, like watching the England side just like fail to execute very simple attacking.
It looked like they were nearly not going to get the try bonus point.
Yeah, although it always felt inevitable that they would, and they did. They'll be slightly frustrated with that, the fact that they weren't as accurate as they probably ought to have been, and they'll be looking to get that right now. Obviously, they still escaped with the full amount of points that they would want from that in such a tight pool, and they did get to rotate a few players, try a few different things. They played a little bit of the match with Ford Farrell, and then they changed that halfway through, so you can kind of reveal a little bit of what they're thinking going forward. But they have a game against the US now that
they're not looking to peak. They're not looking to peak at this time. So it was one to get out of the way for England without any injuries, and they managed that despite the Tongans' best efforts.
Bringing some big hits,
But the big hits are admirable. It was a fun game to watch from that perspective, but the Tongans couldn't really use the ball, and it wasn't a case of England putting an enormous amount of pressure on them. They just didn't do much with it. So it was good and bad to watch, really. And likewise, from a Tier 2 point of view, Wales-Georgia, which followed the following day, was a bit of a disappointment from Georgia's perspective.
Tier 1 v Tier 2 all over it, wasn't it?
They were blitzed in the opening 20, and then they did play very well in the second half. But Wales really the main story from that. Attack looking sharp, Josh Adams looking sharp, clever little set piece moves that I don't know if Stephen Jones can take credit for. Probably were in the bank.
Be watching them from home going, I know that move.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But their backline was striking very nicely off first phase. It was just a case of doing some very simple homework on a pretty weak defence.
Yeah, particularly off line out, they were defending that gap between 10 and forwards was covered by a front row forward, Narishvili, and they isolated that twice and executed very quickly in it. Similarly, they sat down a lot on Hadley Parks throughout the whole game. Their centres were not really aware of some of the other threats. The Georgian hustle on defence annoys me because once they warm up into a game, they're actually formidable enough, and they showed some of that in the second half against what is a quality Wales team. But it was just a bit disappointing. It was interesting that it was the Six Nations champs against the Rugby Europe champs, and that was the difference. So that's what I mean. Tier 1 v Tier 2, and it was unfortunate for Georgia that Wales started so well. But from Gatland's perspective, that's a wonderful start.
It is
potentially dangerous opponent.
It was a dangerous opponent. Sidestepped. They stood up in the scrum.
Yeah.
They'll be for the most part, but they'll be satisfied. They'll be satisfied to have gotten through it, despite the fact that Georgia did give them a good game and got some credit in the bank with their very decent second half performance.
Yeah.
But that was that game. It was a lot of fun as well. And then obviously this morning, obviously shooting this on Tuesday, this morning we had Russia against Samoa. A fun game as well. The Russians stood up
again for the first half. They were leading at half-time, 6-5.
They were.
Could have been playing against 10 or 14 or men.
Indeed, the Russians got very lucky with a couple of decisions.
The Samoans, you mean?
The Samoans got really lucky with a couple of decisions. Then Samoa kicked on, did very nicely. Leo was looking very sharp.
When their attack gets going, Samoa can be very nice. Like, they have some wonderful backs out there that can really execute when playing some of that attacking rugby. But they do like front football to do it. And there is still a little bit of looseness there that Russia were definitely capitalising on. Russia have acquitted themselves really well through these first two rounds.
Daragh at scrum half and Gadchev at open side flanker in particular have been very impressive in both games. They were very impressive right up until inevitably with a 3-day turnaround or 3 rest days they gassed.
They're already at a deficit fitness wise in terms of the level that they're playing at, and then to couple that with a turnaround like that, and the humidity is what it is. It was never going to be a lasting performance. So even when it was 6-5 to them at half time, you felt like that's probably not enough.
Indeed. There was just one other note in general, is that World Rugby have issued a state critiquing the refereeing.
Yes, that happened today.
There have been a few refereeing errors that people have been looking to. Obviously people weren't Desma wasn't thrilled with refereeing of the offside line, which has just been,
that's the theme of all throughout.
What would frustrate you about it is just that it is randomly picked up on occasion. Like crucially to award the All Blacks a penalty way back in a phase after the Box had put some pressure on. It's like, oh no, you're offside. And it's like, well, everyone's always offside. And
it's like that, not to say they weren't offside, because they were.
Oh, I'm sure they were.
They jumped early, and I think that they are more inclined to ping the ones where one guy does visibly jump early and not retreat. Those are the ones that tend to get pinged. But that's brushing over the fact that like the whole everyone's like around a foot at least offside at every breakdown, and it's just not being policed.
Louis Picamole obviously shot offside in that Argentina game, and he wasn't picked up.
And picked up an intercept in the same phase, and it was hang on, lads.
Indeed, that was a big moment, and that went France's way, and that was something that irked Ledesma. And then obviously we've had the high tackles, which we assumed going into the tournament had been made clear. And yet it seems, from my point of view...
The guidelines are gone.
Well, from my point of view... No, they're talking about the guidelines, but they seem to have just used the cop-out of the dipping mitigation to just mean, like, if they're not, a pencil bullet upright with full posture, then they're dipping, so it's not a red card. For my money, the 3 incidents, Reece Hodge, Ray Lilo, and the Samoan hooker, whose name escapes me.
Which was probably the worst of all 3.
It was the worst of all 3. Matu.
Yeah. Both of those Samoan hits came on Artemiev as well, by the way. The Russian fullback, poor lad.
He played really well and is a great character. But those are the 3 dead set red cards that refs have sort of bottled, making the decision and sort of half-arsely. Well, actually, they just missed the first one on Reece Hodge. And then the other 2, Poit just sort of bottled and came up with some lame mitigation excuse and gave the wrong decision. And it prevented us from seeing what is one of the more interesting pictures, which is when an overwhelming favourite goes down to 14 men in one of these games
and has to dig it out.
It
would have galvanised the Russian. I'd say the Russians would have had a little bit more energy in that second half, just because of that.
Fiji against Australia. So that picture, one of the avenues for an underdog success, has been sort of robbed of them in the opening weekend. So hopefully they start officiating the offside line and just be more consistent and stick to the guidelines on the high tackles.
What was grievous sad about the Fiji one was the fact that they lost Yato. Yato failed the HIA, couldn't come back on, and he had been in absolute barnstorming form, and it's that, as well as like whatever about 14 men v 15 men, if a hit like that goes in and the net result is that Fiji lose their star player and there's no repercussions for Australia, that's horrible. And that's not what you want to see at all.
And while I think that Australia, with their 27-point run, are going to win that game anyway, just because they have such an advantage in that type 5 area, I think that it's definitely a shame, and it's robbed Fiji of giving it a real go with their best players on the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. But I suppose with that we'll probably move on.
Well, we just wanted to mention in the end of that. In the end of that opening week, it has taken its injury toll on some players. We've had Trevor Nyakanye, who is a really classy player who had been playing really, really well, defending magnificently. He makes 1 million tackles off the bench.
Scrums on either side. He was great value for being on the bench, keeping Vincent Koch out of the 23 for South Africa. Yeah.
He's gone, injured, replaced by Thomas Tutoit.
And out for the World Cup.
And I'm absolutely gutted for him because he's in the form of his life.
I know, And Razzie was putting a lot of faith in him, like they
and rightly so,
because he's the man covering both sides, and as well as being the benchman. I didn't realise he would be the guy straight in off the bench, but there he was, and it's a real shame. But this is what does happen when you have, the World Cup is underway, and that was a rather intense fixture. You had to be at a level, and it's just unfortunate that he was the guy who had to fall by the wayside.
Corey Allen didn't recover from his injury pre-tournament.
He's
been replaced by Bradley Davis. For Wales, that is, of course, in the lock. Ali Price, who had been in great form himself, is gone now for Scotland. He picked up an injury, replaced by Henry Pyrgos. And Hamish Watson on field in that Ireland game, which really couldn't have gone worse for the Scots, is gone himself.
He's gone for the World Cup.
Did his leg in, and he was one of their guys. Like he was one of our players to watch.
He was, and even in that game, he was the only Scot who was potentially dangerous on their defensive breakdown and making. He was a nuisance. He was becoming, because obviously with Barkley not being at the races, seemingly it was down to the mish, as it were, and that's just really unfortunate because we really love watching that guy play. And it opens the door because like he would have been a scourge against Japan, and it's they're missing a massive asset in him.
They have brought in Magnus Bradbury to replace him.
Who is also an exciting player, different player, but an exciting player.
And then finally, obviously, Amosa, the number 8 for Samoa. We are yet to have an update on him, but he was stretchered off in that game this afternoon, and that's obviously not good news for them as well. He's one of their big players.
He's a barnstormer, good carrier of a ball.
So it's just worth noting the extent to which rugby takes its toll on players in this modern game.
Yeah, 4 day turnaround in humidity is a dangerous game to be playing.
And, and 5 guys down, and hopefully no more, although I dare say it's inevitable that there'll be more.
Yeah.
And wishing all of those guys the best on their recovery, and just good for them, obviously, because they're missing out on the World Cup. Okay, so we will pivot on.
Okay, well that was round 1, and it's in the books, and it has a few interesting pictures. Italy fans will want to be taking a picture of their pool table as it stands, as they're sitting on top for now. But yeah, we'll move on because there are so many games to get through. Thank you very much for tuning into the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you're new here, please click subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified of all our new videos. And leave a comment as well, because we love the chat and conversation. Thanks.